Affair.
Their affair began in an extremely special situation.
Abdul Rahman Muhammad Babu is a commentator on African affairs.
The government is trying to play down its involvement in the affair.
The government warned its neighbors not to interfere in its internal affairs. The difference between the statement of affairs and the balance sheet is quite blurred.
Affair.
Assembly.
The students had an assembly to talk about their interests.
WFC was an organization established by the UN General Assembly in December 1974.
You have freedom of assembly and obviously freedom of speech.
Final assembly of the oil platforms is to be undertaken at the yard in the northeast of Scotland.
For the rest of the day, he worked on the assembly of an explosive device.
Assembly.
Bless.
God blesses you. God blesses you. The Mass always ends with a blessing.
The land was blessed with natural resources of oil, natural gas, and a lake of pitch.
His failure to pass the exam was a blessing in disguise. This made him realize the importance of hard work.
Bless.
Cereal.
Cereal supplies with extra vitamins.
The Russian government will put customs barriers to limit the export of cereals.
He's preparing cold cereal.
The box of cereal is almost empty.
I munched my way through a huge bowl of cereal.
Cereal. Cheerful.
You're in a cheerful mood this morning.
Gerber gives us bright and cheerful.
He cheerfully agreed to do it. A tall brunette stood behind the front counter in the lobby, giving us a bright, cheerful smile.
You're in a cheerful mood this morning.
Cheerful.
Diameter.
The dome is 10 feet in diameter. The diameter of the hat is about 40 to 50 centimeters and it is about 25 to 30 centimeters high.
The dome is 42.3 meters in diameter.
A circle is bisected by its diameter.
The dome is 10 feet in diameter.
Diameter.
Exploit.
What is being done to stop employers from exploiting young people?
We need to exploit every opportunity for media coverage.
Britain's exploitation of natural gas began after the Second World War. Extra payments should be made to protect the interests of the staff and prevent exploitation.
In that country, the law still left the door open for continued exploitation and enslavement.
Exploit. Harvest.
They had a lot of wheat from the last harvest.
The reservoir is an example of using natural topography for rainwater harvesting.
We've had a bumper harvest of apples this year.
Rice farmers here still plant and harvest their crops by hand.
Harvest.
Nut.
To eat a nut, first you have to crack its shell.
I tightened the lug nuts by hand.
To eat a nut, first you have to crack its shell.
Cooking vegetables reduces their nutritional value.
So they are not as nutritious as fresh food.
Nut.
Pharaoh.
The pharaohs ruled Egypt for thousands of years. The pharaohs ruled Egypt for thousands of years. The pyramid was built by the Egyptian pharaoh Khufu.
Pharaoh.
Ripe.
Pick the tomatoes before they get too ripe.
The wheat was ripe for the sickle, but there was not a man or boy to cut it.
We collect mangoes before they get too ripe.
The sun ripens the fruit.
Ripe. Roast.
We have to roast the chicken in the oven first.
I like roasted goose so much.
Starbucks is the premier roaster and retailer of specialty coffee in the world.
She roasted a leg of lamb and baked an apple pie.
We have to roast the chicken in the oven first.
Roast.
Routine.
My father's daily routine includes shaving right before breakfast.
The fault was discovered during a routine check.
John was routinely accused of glibness and superficiality.
This everyday routine of having to check inventory is boring.
It's not the same boring routine all the time.
Routine.
Scheme.
They lay an elaborate scheme to avoid taxes.
The company does not operate a pension scheme.
They lay an elaborate scheme to kidnap the president's daughter.
The claim was submitted to the arbitration board in accordance with the provisions of the Scheme of Conciliation and Arbitration for the Civil Service.
In Europe, there is a labeling scheme for refrigerators, freezers, washing machines and tumble dryers.
Scheme.
Stove. Will you light the stove? Many people in poor countries cook on kerosene stoves.
At night we sleep in our sleeping bags or tents and cook on our gas stove.
What are you doing with the stove?
I forgot to turn off the gas stove. Stove.
Theft.
The theft of his TV took place when he was at work. We called the insurance company to report the theft. The theft of the paintings is an enigma to the investigators.
Identity theft is a growing and serious problem, which can lead to credit card fraud. He was conditionally discharged after admitting the theft.
Theft.
Famine.
They tried to avoid the threat of widespread famine in the area. They tried to avoid the threat of widespread famine in the area.
The plan rid the world of famine.
The farmers couldn't grow any food on the dry soil, so there was a famine.
Some historians believe the famine continued until 1851.
Famine.
Slim.
Because of the famine, he was very slim.
You look so slim in those trousers. Their boots were covered in thick slimy mud.
The prospect of finding a job is slim at present.
Because of the famine, he was very slim.